What's going on, everybody? It's me, Ryan Monson, the host of the Classic Buffalo Podcast, the podcast that interviews everyday people like you, listener, on their stories surrounding mental health. What do you like? What do you not like? What are you passionate about? What are you not passionate about? What's happened to you? What have you gone through? Everything from counseling, medication, you name it, we talk about it on here, guys. Everything from mental health to, do you like ducks? What are your thoughts on whatever? You get it. This is season 1 finale. We did it. 72 episodes, or books as I would call them. I am so pumped to share this story with you. This girl, her and I go way back to mid-college days. That's not way back, but it's kind of back. But we catch up. She is a true fighter since the age of 7. She details her story surrounding growing up with OCD, growing up with anxiety, depression, sexual assault, survival story. We're even going to talk about that towards the end. We talk about suicidal ideation and suicidal things. We talk about so much stuff. This woman's been through a lot, but she's one of the most beautiful and one of the most just kindest souls. Someone who's worked really, really hard. And I love ending this season of ours on this episode just because she came out through the other side. And she's still fighting in some ways, just like we all are. But you're going to hear through this woman go through a lot of different types of things, and hopefully that'll give you guys some courage and some hope that somebody can come out on top after going through so much in her life. So I'm super pumped for you to listen. And let's get into today's season 1 finale with Emily DeAngulo. Here we go. Joining me this wonderful, what day is today? Wednesday? Yeah, man, I totally forgot what day it is. It happens so much these days. Emily DeAngulo. Did I say it right?
Yeah, you did. Good job.
Yay, even of all these years.
I know, right?
How are you doing? Where are you at?
Right now, I am living in Syracuse, Indiana.
Whoa, man.
Yeah, in Syracuse, Indiana, not New York. But
Have you ever been to New York?
I have not actually. Well, okay, I take that back. I was like 2, but I don't remember it. So I don't really count it.
Well, you're a nature girl. It's kind of surprising you wouldn't head out to New York. It's a beautiful area.
I know, I need to get out there. There's a lot of places I haven't been out to.
Our first 5. It's like we hit a hurdle real quick. We got to get you in the zone, warm everybody up. We're going to do some conversational layups here.
Oh, man. Okay, I'm ready.
First one. What is the first thing you buy for yourself with $1 million? You pay off all your debt. You buy your mama a house. You do all the nice stuff. What's the first thing you buy for yourself?
4-wheeler. I know it's a lot less than $1 million, but I really want a 4-wheeler or a jet ski. Those are on my bucket list.
Have you been to the dunes in Indiana, the North or whatever, the Michigan dunes, Indiana dunes? I don't know what it's called.
Yeah, I've been to Van Buren State Park and the Indiana dunes. I went once this summer, but I've never gone dune never done it on the dunes though before.
Okay. I just know that's a 4-wheeler. I want to go there sometime. But you're a 4-wheeling queen.
Yeah. Too bad my 4-wheeler is all the way up in Alaska. But,
Okay, I want to hear that story after the first 5. How you got your 4-wheeler in Alaska.
No big deal.
All right, number 2. What is your best scar story?
I have this huge scratch on my right wrist, and I actually got that in Alaska. My mom went hiking and she fell down this side of a mountain and broke her ankle. And it was the day that we were supposed to be going home. We were flying out later that night. And my dad and I decided to stay back so we could finish up packing, make sure our tickets are all in check. And so we get this phone call from my uncle and saying hey, you guys need to figure out a plan. You're not going to be able to leave later tonight. you're going to have to like meet us at the hospital with your mom like broke her ankle. And so my aunt is like, you think I'm a clean freak? Like my aunt is like nitpicky, like neat freak. So I'm like running up the stairs, and like they live in this log cabin that they built, and like the stairs are like logs cut in half. And she like had like pledged the stairs, like the wood stairs, and I had socks on.
Oh my God.
I'm like running up the stairs, and then like grab mom's purse, and I'm running down, and like one of those steps, those logs like rocks, and I just like face plant down on it, and like on that ledge, just like slash my wrist like open, and I probably should have gotten stitches, but I didn't because we had other commotion going on. That's my most gnarly scar story,
Tiger.
right? It was a saber tooth.
Saber teeth. Are they extinct? They're extinct, right?
Yeah, they're extinct.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. It's from your time traveling adventures. Number 3, what's the best piece of advice someone's ever given you?
There's this book that Sadie Robertson wrote. She said something about like not jumping on the crazy train, and because sometimes her thoughts get the best of her, and she always thinks like the worst possible like scenario. And I struggle with that, and my mind is always racing with thoughts over and over and over again. Always worst possible like thing is going to happen. Between like Sadie's reminder of don't jump on the crazy train, and my mom saying, Emily, you need to remember just to breathe. And instead of thinking of what is going on in your head, say 5 truths out loud and say 5 good things that you're thankful for in your life. Because those are the true things, not the negative lies that are swarming in your head.
If you could have any animal in the world and you have to take care of it, what would you choose?
A wild Mustang. There's like, isn't there like a movie or something? Black Stallion, I think. I think a movie that I watched, but yeah, just like a wild Mustang, like living out like in Montana or something, and I was able to like, I don't know, just take care of it and feed it, and hopefully over time, like earn its trust.
The animal you choose is supposed to be what you want in a significant other.
Oh, snap.
There you go.
I'm gonna have to look that up now. Like, I don't know what that means.
You want to take your time with a person. You want to get to know them. You like someone who's independent, but, you know, maybe over time can be domesticated and or just gaining their trust over time, taking things slow.
Yeah, sounds about right.
There you go.
Actually, wow. Huh.
What is a surprising fact about you that most people might not know?
So, senior year in high school, and I was taking anatomy, and I cheated on that test. Like, I was sitting out in the hallway taking it outside of, like, the special ed room.
Yeah.
And I had, like, a folded up, like, study guide in my pocket. And there was nobody else out in the hallway. So, like, I was just really struggling and having, like, a really bad day. So I decided to cheat on my anatomy test. And, of course, like, I felt so bad later. I don't know if I've ever told anybody that before. I think that's the first time I've ever said that, like, out loud.
I just got an email that they're taking away your high school diploma, so.
Yeah, I know, right? I'm pretty sure it was, like, all about, like, the human anatomy or something. But, yeah, don't cheat, kids. It's not good.
I think we all have our, like, cheated story. Like, as far as, like, academically, I don't know, relationally, but academically, we all have a story of, like, something we're like, I totally, whatever. Yeah.
Right.
You're not alone. But you did cheat your way through the first 5, so good job. I'm just kidding. You made it.
I made it.
Sweet. Okay, so let's do timeline. Let's go all the way to the beginning. Day 1, you've emerged into the world.
So I'm originally from this, like, small little town outside of Kokomo called Greentown, and practically in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by cornfields for the first 5 years of my life, with my mom and my dad and my little sister. My dad was gone a lot growing up because he was in the military, still is in the Air Force. He's on the civilian side, but he'll probably retire another year or two, but going 40 plus years strong.
Wow.
But yeah, I wasn't around like a lot when I was little. So it's just like my mom and my little sister and I remember like always playing outside though until it was like dark. And then mom like calling in like, hey, like it's time to come in, like gotta bathe and get ready for bed. And she always had the hardest time getting me to come inside. Always playing like street ball with the neighbor kids. We moved into town then right around my 5th birthday. So we lived on the cul-de-sac and my dad spray painted these bases in the road. And so we were always playing kickball and baseball. And we always had all the neighborhood kids over at our house because we had a swimming pool growing up in our backyard. So mom, of course, supplied all the snacks.
What was your favorite snack as a kid?
Probably like, I mean, it still is. It's still ice cream. Growing up, I always had to have like a coffee mug of ice cream before I went to bed. It seemed like not a bowl. Like we're a weird family. We used coffee mugs to put our ice cream in.
Oh, okay.
Either that or my mom's famous chocolate chip cookies. I played soccer my 2nd through 8th grade year. I was always defense or mid sweep. I really hated school. My 1st grade teacher was fired uh, after the first 2 months of school, and they were never able to find a replacement for the rest of the school year. So we always had like a different substitute. It seemed like every couple of weeks, so it was never consistent. And that was the same year I was diagnosed with ADHD and anxiety and depression
In
um,
first grade?
in 1st grade.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, my grandma on my mom's side, she passed away when I was in 1st grade, and like seeing my grandma like laying there in the casket and like not really understanding as like a 7-year-old like what is grandma actually doing? Like it looked like she was just taking a nap, but she had like this like pound of makeup on her face. Like I remember that, and her bright pink lipstick. I like went to go touch grandma's face, and like my Aunt Julie like snapped at me. So after seeing my mom so heartbroken over her mom passing, I thought my mom was going to pass away then. So for like 6 months, I had night terrors,
Oh
like
my gosh.
screaming on top of my lungs, thinking my mom is going to die if I were to fall asleep. If my mom and dad weren't like one of them weren't sleeping in bed with me, I would be sleeping on the floor next to them in my Barbie sleeping bag. Between being in special ed classes, thinking I'm going to lose my mom, and not really having a consistent 1st grade teacher, like that's how I thought school was going to be for the rest of my life.
Oh
It was like
my gosh.
a mess.
Well, yeah, like your dad's inconsistently there. He's there and he's not there. Your teacher, who's
Yeah,
kind of like a secondary parent when you're that young, is also inconsistent. You have death in your family. You've been diagnosed with all these mental health things that can be difficult, but you don't even know, like, you just don't know what it is, but you know you have this thing, but like,
yeah.
it's just like a lot. How did you deal with that?
I don't remember how I dealt with it at that particular young
Mm-hmm.
age. I mean, I remember going to like therapy. We would play checkers in his office, and he would like ask me like all these questions like, how's your day going? How's mom and dad?
Right.
Like, how are you? Between that and like Mrs. Silver, she was our special ed director of our school. Like, she would let me bring like my stuffed animals to school and like keep them in my desk. So I would
Oh,
like
that's
stop
cool.
fidgeting because I fidgeted a lot and didn't have like really great like time span. Like I'd always get so distracted,
Mm-hmm.
and like she would always like give me like these like weird erasers that like were like felt different, like because they didn't have like fidgets like they do now for kids, like with all those like weird buttons and
Yep.
like
Yep.
little turning things. Like that was not a thing like 20 years ago. which sounds really weird to say 20 years ago.
Right? Yeah, we're sounding old.
I feel old. So between first grade year and then like 9/11 hits, I'm in third grade at the time, and I remember coming home and my mom was babysitting like my little sister and our neighbor boy Jake. Like we had these building blocks and these like little like airplane toys, and like
Oh, wow.
on TV it's showing like the planes crashing into towers. Jake is building a tower with blocks and making the plane crash into it. Like he's just doing what he's seeing. Like he's
Wow.
like and he's just 4, so he doesn't know what he's doing.
Mm-hmm.
But coming home to that as a third grader and my mom being frantic and unsure and not knowing where my dad is going to go, and my dad leaves for like a year, like during that whole situation.
Mm-hmm. Was he active like duty during that
Mhm.
9/11? Yeah.
Yeah, he was active duty. He left that night of 9/11. He went to Guam. He was also in Hawaii, but like he never actually like went to like
Mm-hmm.
Iraq.
Right.
But he was always like on the outskirts. Yeah, I remember like him coming home and like we were at the Air Force Base, at Grissom Air Force Base. I like holding up these welcome home daddy signs, and I'm sitting like in the stands with like my balloons, and like my mom is crying, and like I'm just so happy like to see my dad. And then I was diagnosed with trichotillomania. For people that don't know what trichotillomania is, it's a obsessive compulsive disorder where you pull your hair out. It's either hereditary or it's a side effect of a medication. And because nobody in my family has had it on either side, we found out that it was a anti-anxiety medication, rare side effect. So I pull my hair out like on top of my head, and I pull my eyelashes out. It used to be really bad once I got to middle school. I looked like a cancer treatment patient. I had no eyelashes, no eyebrows. My hair was just like so thin, and I was pulling the hair out on my arms as well. When I pull my hair out, like it feels really good. Like it lets off like these like endorphins of like a feel good sensation.
Mm.
I normally do it like when I'm really like anxious and depressed. That's like my coping mechanism.
Mm-hmm.
Or if I'm really bored sometimes, I'll pull my hair out as well. But it's normally when I'm like really struggling in life.
Mm.
But like it takes so long like for your hair to grow. All that hard work that you put in for like a couple months, like you can destroy it within like 10, 15 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I've like had to the point like where I've had to wear like a partial wig because it was so thin on top.
Mm-hmm.
Right now though, I can cover it by wearing my hair like half back or up in a ponytail with a headband, or I can wear a bun on top of my head. I haven't worn a partial wig in a couple years, but I
Mm.
still wear fake eyelashes though on top. I've been wearing those for probably the past like 5 years. Like people ask like, doesn't that hurt? Like, and I'm like, no, like it doesn't hurt like at all because the skin on top of your head is not like, it's not loose. So it doesn't like pull. Like it would like if I were to pull like my hair out like closer like to the bottom of my neck, like that hurts. Or like, can't you just stop? And I'm like, well, it's not that simple. Like I've gone to counseling for it ever since I was in like fifth grade.
Mm-hmm.
I've tried to like wear mittens on my hands, try to like sit on my hands. They've like told me like get like a Barbie doll and pull its hair out. And I'm like, it's not the same like feeling of like good sensation.
Mm-hmm.
They have told me like, okay, you like journal like what you're feeling like during this time. And of course me being stubborn, I'm like, no, that's just silly. I, honestly, like I think it's something like I've had to mature and realize over the years that like this is something I can control this. Like it's
Mm.
something that like I have to choose not to do.
When did that thought first enter your mind that I have control?
Probably like 3 years ago.
Mm. How revolutionary was that?
But like honestly, it was like an awe moment. I have control over this. Like, I have control whether or not, like, I pull my hair out. Like, just like I have control over whether or not, like, I'm going to eat ice cream dessert versus, like, cookies. I have these choices that I make. Like, I have the authority to tell myself no. I have the authority to tell myself, you need to go do something else. Sometimes, like, I'll give in. Like, a couple months of, like, hard work, it's, like, just absolutely destroyed, and I'll go look at myself in the mirror after, like, I've realized what I've done, and I get so mad at myself. Like, so mad. Like, I almost, like, tear myself apart. Like, I degrade. Like, I'll call myself names, look in the mirror. Like, I'm like, how could you be so stupid? Like, you, like, had all that hard work. You threw it all away for, like, that 10 minutes of, like, feeling really good. An alcoholic had a really, like, crappy day. And he was doing, like, real well for a couple months. And he's like, well, you know what? My day was real crappy, so you know what? I don't really care. I'm going to take a drink. Yeah, start all over again. And they have kind of like 12-step programs for this. It's pretty much an addiction. I'm addicted to pulling my hair. I've never joined one. People with trichotillomania are not like super open about it. We try and like hide it and like make ourselves like appear normal. Just how like people who maybe self-harm or like have an eating disorder, they try and hide it by like wearing baggy clothes, wearing long sleeve shirts and pants. We try and hide it by like putting our hair up in a certain way or wearing a ball cap, putting on extra thick eyeliner. I've only been open about it maybe in the last like 5-6 years. But like if you were to like ask me like back in high school, like I would totally like deny you and I'd walk away.
Yeah. Yeah. What was your support system kind of middle school, high school? Let's go there. You know, the people that in your life either challenging, because I'm sure like being special ed might have been, I mean, was that difficult? Because being OCD, that's kind of one of those like, you don't have, I don't know, you're not on the spectrum necessarily, I wouldn't think, but you're still technically special ed somehow. I don't know, just maybe the school system you're in said you were special ed, but like kind of, can you talk about middle school and high school, the support system for like the things that you were struggling with?
So in 7th and 8th grade, like I had a pretty cool like support system, like people I hung out with at school. We were all like pretty much like-minded, like really good, like Christian kids that like followed the rules, always like hung out together, like in school and outside of school, like having like different slumber parties, like going to youth group like together. My two best friends at the time, Megan and Angelina, in middle school, did not go to my school per se, but they were my go-to girls until like my sophomore year of high school when we left that particular church. I had a really good like group of people. Once I got to high school, like I think we all kind of like, I don't know, like I think our cliques kind of like changed. I wasn't really in special ed in middle school. Not until, yeah, my freshman year. I was in special ed just for like study skills. For people who don't know what like study skills is, it's like a glorified study hall. And then they help you like with your homework, unlike the study hall teacher would probably like wouldn't know how to do like most of the subjects, and they wouldn't have like aides in there to also help you like do your homework. Like this was actual homework time. Like you weren't like distracted by your phone or a laptop or kids messing around. Like these were all kids that had special needs of some type, whether it was mild or moderate, that just needed a little bit more attention and needed a little bit more help with homework and just that understanding. So my mom was a special ed teacher at my high school, and I only graduated with 118 kids. So that didn't really help my stigma as a high schooler. Having my mom as my special ed teacher, I got made fun of quite a bit for that, and I was voted my senior year teacher's pet. I was the girl teacher's pet. And so I was never invited to anything cool outside of school, really. I think they were afraid I was going to tell on them if something down was going, because I really, I was pretty sheltered growing up. I had one friend, and I had like one or two friends in high school. I had one friend, Jennifer Slusher. She was 2 years older than me. I hung out with her a lot. We were in special ed together, and we bonded really well. And then there was a girl named Madison. She was 2 years younger than me, and she was probably she was my ride or die in high school.
Mm-hmm.
At Eastern, and we were on the swim team together. Other than that, I got kicked out of our little Christian groupie my sophomore year of high school because there wasn't enough room around the lunch table.
What?
So, yeah. So the ringleaders, not to mention names, but yeah, they decided to kick a couple of us out because there wasn't enough room around the lunch table.
Damn, that's like saying, yeah, you're just not cool enough. But like in the Christian world, you'd think that wouldn't. Oh, of course, there's enough. Like pull up a chair, type of,
Right.
right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And that has stuck with me since. I've told a lot of people that. And they have the same reaction.
That sucks.
Yeah. It really, really does. And school came really hard for me. Chemistry, God bless his heart, Mr. Cox, my chemistry teacher. I actually just saw him a couple weeks ago at a wedding. I would go to his class, and early in the mornings, I'd get there with Mom, and I'd be like, please help me with this formula. I don't understand the formula for energy or moles, doing moles. And then after school, whenever I was in study skills, I would go and interrupt his class. Hey, do you have 5 minutes? I don't understand this problem. And then Mrs. Graber, she was one of the special ed assistants. She tutored me in Algebra 2, geometry, and chemistry, and helped me get through it. But my mom would stay up with me until midnight, helping me with homework, because I just never really understood anything, and I had the hardest time with math and writing. I could never put my words on paper. But she understood what I was trying to say, so she would be able to formulate. She'd be like, so something like this, and be like, yeah. And she's like, okay, so how would you put that in your own words though? If I were to say it like this, how would you change that up though to make it sound like you?
Yeah, man, the patience and love from your mom. Can we point that out for a second? That's so beautiful that you guys have that relationship.
So my mom now is my best friend.
I believe it.
How I describe that to people is, if I could have my mom as my maid of honor at my wedding, I would put her in that position.
Mm-hmm.
But I know that I can't put my mom as my own maid of honor. She's gonna be crying. I just know her. I can put that amount of stress on her. But that's how I see my mom. She knows every deep, dark sin, every good, every bad, every win, every loss of my life. If I call her at 2 o'clock in the morning, if she doesn't pick up right away, she'll call me within the next 30 seconds. And she'll be like, hey, what's wrong? Hey, what's up? What do you need? She will meet me to wherever I am. I definitely wouldn't be here today without my mom, for sure. And tomorrow marks National Suicide Prevention Day. It's National Suicide Prevention Week and month. But tomorrow is National Suicide Prevention Day. I have a shirt that is called To Write Love on Her Arms. It's all about suicide prevention. It's a great organization. Y'all should go check them out. I plan on wearing that shirt tomorrow. If it wasn't for my mom talking me out of taking a whole bottle of pills one night, because I was just so lost and hurting so much. I wouldn't be here today talking to you, Ryan.
Yeah.
On this podcast. I don't thinking about it, but I don't know what I'm going to do without her one day when she's not around.
Yeah.
I don't know how my mental state like, is going to be, like, when she's not here. Because, like, I tell her everything.
Mm-hmm. All we can do is enjoy people who mean a lot to us while they're here. You know, I catch
Absolutely.
recently, I've been catching myself with that with people, especially my parents, where they'll be like, is this a moment I'm going to remember when they're gone? Like, that one time we went to Chuck E. Cheese, or that one time we went to, you know, and then it's one moment with my mom specifically. I'll remember this when she's gone, 100%. Whenever that is. I had started to learn how to play the piano for the first time, and my mom would always play me piano, like to go to bed, and like almost every night. But I've never in my whole life been able to play the piano with my mom. So when I had finally learned how to play the piano, playing the piano with my mom, where she's like, oh, just do whatever you want on the left side of the keyboard. And she just started playing with me. I was like, I'll remember that for the rest of my life. We have to hope, though, that we'll be strong enough, you know, or that someone else will emerge, or, you know, we'll be in a different place. And maybe it will be difficult. Maybe it'll be okay, you know, but appreciate people while they're here.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Between my mom, like, always being there for me
Mm-hmm.
when I've repeated that same mistake over and over again, and she just continues to extend, like, so much grace,
Yeah.
more grace than, like, I deserve. Like, that'll stick with me for the rest of my life, along with being able to go, like, on several mother-daughter trips with her to Michigan and to Florida and Alabama. We've taken some week-long vacations together and just hung out at the beach because that's our favorite places to go, and just enjoying dinner together. And
I want to stop here just for a slight second and just talk about your favorite parts of your mom and the reason why. And we can talk about what you do for other people as well. But I really think that you have a good relationship with your mom, and a supporter relationship, a great one. And so for those who are listening, who are in a supporter role, who are looking for ideas or things to say to someone who's struggling, things to do for them, what has worked for you? So you're like, oh, my mom will call me out of nowhere. Well, she'll always just ask if I'm okay, texting me, give me hugs. Like, what do you think are some things that supporters can be doing for those who are really struggling out there, or their loved ones, or their significant others, or whoever? Like, what are some ideas, things to say, to do that you would recommend that maybe from your own experience you like?
you can never tell someone that you love them enough. The simple 3 words, I love you. You can never say that too much, too often. And not just say love you, but that, like, that I, like, that makes it stand out even more. Just make it even more personal. She'll, like, find something on Pinterest about us saying positive, and, like, you're not always going to feel sad. You're not always going to feel depressed. You're not always going to feel this way right now. But you are growing and going to become this, like, beautiful flower that is going to blossom. And one day someone is going to see that beautifulness, and they're going to wonder why. How did you become the person that you are? You are not broken. You're just a lot of pieces. It's just a lot of pieces of your life put together to make you stronger. Maybe you were supposed to go through that situation to be able to relate to someone else's life or someone else's story, and you're going to be able to support them along the way and give them advice. Like, my mom has gone through a lot of similar things that I've gone through, struggling with anxiety and depression and OCD thoughts. And so she's been able to advise me, like, hey, like, you aren't strange. You're not weird. Like, I have thought and felt all these same things that you are going through right now, Emily. And so, like, just knowing that someone else has gone through, like, these same things makes me feel that I'm not alone in this world. I'm very outgoing. I'm very extroverted. Like, I know a lot of people, but I don't have a lot of close people. Like, I keep them at arm's length because I'm afraid of getting hurt.
Yep.
But my mom, since she knows everything and she knows what I'm going through, like, she's able to push me to be a better person.
So let's go to like high school, college age. Did you go to college? You know, like what's going on at that time period? That's kind of when we met, I believe, was in college.
Yeah, we did. After high school, I had originally planned on becoming a vet tech, and I was going to go to International Business College in Indy and do their vet tech program for 18 months.
Mm-hmm.
I started that in September of 2011, and only made it through like 3 months, and then I quit. I decided it's not what I wanted to do, and moved back home with my parents. And then I started working at Subway in my hometown for a couple months. And then a friend of ours that goes to my home church, she has a daughter that has special needs, and she wanted to know if I would consider joining the company that Abby is a part of, so I could go out in the community and take her to Special Olympic events, sports nights, out to dinner, take her to movies, doctor's appointments, grocery shopping, because I have a real passion for people with special needs. My next door neighbor back home has Down syndrome, and I've always enjoyed like spending time with her. Like she would come over like as a little kid, and like we'd play with Barbies, and like she'd come swimming, and
Mm-hmm.
like I was trying to like make her like feel welcome. And in high school, like after I got kicked out of that table, I kind of sat back with the misfits at the back lunch table, the people that didn't really like fit in, that were kind of like invisible. So I started working with Bonavista programs in Kokomo for several years. Working with Abby led me to working with this beautiful group of people and leaders. Jonna, I still see every once in a while. Back home, I'll bump into her in the town, and she's just a year older than me, and she's just like, Emily! And like, she comes over, and like one of her hands doesn't work like very well. It's very like, it's pretty much like in a fist, but like, I don't know anybody else that knows more Jonas Brothers songs by heart than Miss Jonna Deem. And she is the most like bubbly girl I know. And like we used to do Zumba together at the YMCA. And like she's just the life of the party. Like she'd dance all around that Zumba class. Like you're like, hey, come on now, like let's go. Like watch me do this. And like just being around them like made me want to go back to school. And then that's when I started going back to IUPUI to become a special education teacher.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's kind of like when you and I met, because I was living in Fishers, then I lived in Indy, and then I lived in Carmel for a year. And then that's kind of like how I got to know Grace. I got to know Grace before that, from when I lived in Indy the first time, going to vet tech school. My roommate at the time was going to Grace, and so she introduced me, and I remember my first like small group. Kelly Gara was in that one, and Joseph Janeskowitz, and like Andrew Short, like, and then we started like going bowling, like on like, I think it was like on Wednesdays or something.
Mm-hmm.
I never finished my degree. I went for 2.5 years. There was like several like really big like exams that you had to take like before you could get into like your actual like education program. Indiana has gone away with the CASA exam and one other one. If you had a high enough like ACT or SAT score, you could get out of taking the exam. But if you didn't, you had to take that before you could actually like get into the School of Education. And I took that like 4 or 5 times, and you could only take it every 30 days, and you had to pay each time. And I had a tutor at one point. It was reading, writing, and math. And I had like 90 minutes to do like 50 questions for each. And then like the writing one, of course, had an essay at the end, and you never knew what any of these questions were.
Yep.
I just got like super discouraged, and I was like, maybe this isn't, like, maybe this is where God doesn't want me to go. Then I like met Kim and Jen Johnson, which is now Jen Amatuzzo. She just got married.
Oh, congrats.
I know, right? To David. It's weird. I met David a couple years later at an IUK small group thing, and we actually like went on a camping trip like one fall break, and like it was weird. Like on Instagram, like a couple years later, like I saw him and Jen like were together, and I was like, what a small world. Like like I know both of these people, and they grew up like nowhere close to each other. Like
Funny how people just end up in each other's lives, isn't it?
I know. I'm so happy for him.
Was that kind of the support group? Was that how we met, or was it through the young adults program?
It's a really good question, because I know we like, I mean, I know that we did both. I know like both the Teen 180 exchange that Jim led, and then also through Access Young Adult Life.
180 Exchange was really cool because it was like a program of people like we're all struggling with something, whether it was addiction, with drugs, with alcohol, with.
Yeah, we're all just like a group of misfits that like we're just struggling to love ourselves.
What was the best part of that community? Because I really liked it. I think that everybody deserves to be in some form of community like that. And I feel like as a misfit myself, finding something like that was really helpful.
It was a safe space where I could just spill whatever I was dealing with. And nobody looked at me weird. Like, oh my gosh, you did that? You did what? They're all like, yeah, like, I understand, like, what you're going through. Or like, I'm really sorry to hear that. But, like, they didn't look at me weird, any differently. I don't know. They didn't think, like, mine was any worse or any better. I didn't think theirs was any worse or any better than mine. I mean, sin is sin. A struggle is a struggle. And we're all just trying to stay afloat at that point. I may have not have been in the best, like, position in my life then. I was still trying to help others transition to their next step though as well. Like we're all there to help each other, even though we weren't all in the best places in our lives.
Yeah.
And like, cause everyone like was like at a different stepping stone in their life with addiction, or something that they were struggling with. So like someone may have been like 5 steps ahead of me and being like, hey, like, I know exactly what you're dealing with, and this is probably going to be the next hurdle. And they were totally right. But I could like totally say that to another person, or I could be like an accountability partner for someone else because I'm not struggling with that same thing. It wasn't like your normal like 12-step group. Like we all like ate a meal together, and we played games like basketball and kickball in the gym, or we went and played Frisbee at Dillon Park. But also like incorporated meetings like as well. And like we did go to some like AA meetings and HANA meetings as well. I never struggled with drugs, but alcohol definitely like it never came to a point like I needed to like admit myself. But knowing that like hearing those 12 steps though was like an eye-opener about like, okay, so like, yeah, like I'm drinking quite a bit, not to the point like it's a problem, but like I probably need to slow my roll. Otherwise it is going to become a problem and an addiction, because I'm using alcohol to numb the pain of all of these different events that like I had gone through.
Right.
And I knew like where I could be headed. Thankfully, like I never did head down that road of like having to admit myself and like having to go through detox, but like it was pretty close at one point, like when I was wrapping up college back in 2015, the spring of like 2015. I was in a relationship with someone that was part of the church, played a role in the church. One night we got into an argument, and things didn't go over like real well. Basically, I was sexually assaulted that night by my boyfriend, and of course, like his neighbor wasn't home. He lived in a duplex, and because he was the only one living there at the time, yeah, I was never heard, and I felt so much I felt so much shame, and being taught to forgive people. I was taught to always forgive.
Yeah.
Always forgive. Never hold grudges against people. I finally got away, and I was running down the stairs, and I told him I was hey, I can't believe what just happened and what you just did, but you know what, I forgive you. Going through so much therapy for several years, and later Kathy, my counselor at the time, she told me, she's that's something you don't have to forgive. She goes I know you were taught to forgive, but that's an unforgivable thing. She goes, if that's what you feel you needed to do, okay, but that's going to take a lot longer than 30 seconds after you're trying to run away. And
Yep.
to get into a safe place. I remember meeting my best friend Steffi in a freaking Taco Bell parking lot the night that it happened. After it was all said and done, I didn't want to go get checked out. I just felt so shamed. And I just I couldn't tell anybody except for her. I couldn't even tell my mom. I was living by myself in an apartment in downtown Indy, and a month later my mom finally figured out what had happened. That was the night I was about to take a whole bottle of Xanax. It was that night. That night is when I was gonna take my life. I was just crying and talking to my mom. I had pills in one hand, and I had vodka sitting on the table, and that's how I was just gonna wash it all down. And knowing that it was my word against his, I didn't have any evidence.
Yeah, right.
I went and talked to the police, and Steffi talked to the police, but I didn't have anything against him, so
I'm sure that was shocking too, just because you get in a relationship with somebody, regardless, knowing that, or not knowing, but hoping that this person's supposed to take care of me, and they violate my consent on whatever detail you want to give that statement, but they've violated my consent. This person's I'm supposed to feel safe and comfortable with my significant other, with my family, with my friends. And this person just violated that. And it just can be jarring because that's maybe, I don't know. I feel like there'd be some either part of you or other people be like, well, that's your boyfriend. That's not sexual assault. You know what I'm saying? I'm sure you had to deal with that. But you're like, no, that doesn't make it okay. What happened?
his best friends didn't even think you would ever be capable of doing something like that. And I walked away from God after that whole thing said and done, because I can't believe someone being being in a church position would do that.
Right.
I can't believe those things happen every day, but especially with someone being in the church leadership position.
Right.
That just numbed me. I didn't really know how to healthily deal with my pain, and I didn't even know how I felt. I just shut everything down, and that's when I just started drinking and partying and being this person that I was totally taught not to be. I would go to the bars and stay there till 3 o'clock in the morning, and when till they would close, because I didn't know what else to do. I didn't know how to deal with this pain. I would go to counseling, but at that time I wasn't taking it seriously, and was so hurt, and I got in with the wrong crowd at school, and at the bars.
So what helped you kind of get out, or at least make things better?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was at Traders Point Christian Church. I just broke down during worship service. This aha moment, of I don't know if God was in the room, and he just wrapped his arms around me, and I just felt him for the first time, because I know he never left me. I just had this aha moment of oh my gosh, what have I been doing for the last couple years? I've been so stupid. How did I go from the Emily going to youth group every Sunday to going out and drinking 5 days a week?
Right, yeah.
downing a whole bottle of tequila, drowning in my sorrows, thinking that like I wish I would just die.
Yeah, but did
Like
you get like
partying.
still sounds like shameful though. Were you able to be like, oh, but God loves me at the end of that sentence? Were you still like, oh, I'm just an idiot, and like, but it feels good.
No,
I don't
like,
know.
after having that like aha moment, I, pardon my language, but like a bunch of like, or you know what, let's use a different word, but like a lot of crap hit the fan. Like, but like it was all for the better, honestly. Like the guy that I was with at the time, like I broke up with. And then I moved back home pretty much with my parents. I had a falling out with my best friend. I was living with her and I had a bunch of like medical issues going on. I had blood clots in my legs.
Oh no.
So we were trying to like get that situation under control.
Yeah.
But I moved back home with my parents for like 2 years and going to counseling like every week to Kathy. Like I went back.
You're a supporter of counseling for sure.
Absolutely. Counseling 110%. Like I feel no shame like saying that like I totally like support counseling. Like they are someone that like I can be open and honest and vulnerable with, and they don't even have to like know me. Like they're like, I mean, it's kept confidential and they're not allowed to tell anybody else. And like, I mean, they hear some crazy stuff, and I needed someone else's like I needed an unbiased opinion, like for like how to get help. Like what are some good ways that like I can help myself? Because I mean, my mom is like pretty biased. I mean, she's my mom.
Mm-hmm.
So like I needed someone that's not my mom to be like, hey, you need to get yourself together. But here's how though, like in these like slow little baby steps though.
Right.
And but like not judging me and like being able to like just let me cry and like I owe it all to Kathy. I don't owe it all to her, but a lot of it to her.
Give yourself some credit. You've made some awesome strides. You've done a
Yeah,
lot.
absolutely. I stopped dating for a little bit. I
Mm-hmm.
kind of like did some long distance like relationships just as like because I was trying to like get better and get healthy, and a relationship probably isn't something that I should probably be jumping into like as I'm trying to like better myself. And so I would fall down and like I take 2 steps back, but then I'd take like 3 steps forward with like the whole like drinking and partying and stuff. And honestly, like I am so proud of where I am today. If you were to ask me like 4 years ago, where do you see yourself in 4 or 5 years? I definitely wouldn't say like I'm able to love myself. I'm able to trust myself with alcohol. Honestly, like I don't really drink a whole lot like anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I maybe have like a glass of wine like when I'm out to dinner, like here and there, like with my mom. But honestly, like I don't really like it anymore
Yeah, you
because it
got it
makes
under
me,
control.
yeah, like it makes my anxiety and depression and my thoughts really bad.
Mm-hmm.
And like I'm afraid that I'm gonna go down that path again. Like I can't deal with that, and I can't put my mom through that again. Her worrying about me every night, and I'm having to call her at like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, like, oh my gosh, like I did this again, like I made this stupid mistake, and she'd be mad at me, but then she'd be like, it's gonna be okay, like she'd be there for me, and she was like my like even though she wasn't like right there next to me, like I could feel her just like putting her arms around me and like telling me all this like Bible and scripture. And I am I haven't lived with my parents in over a year now. I live in a house by myself, just me and my cat. I'm not dating anyone right now. I'm really just looking for a community of people that I can trust and I can go out and have fun without partying and alcohol and like just like so like last night for instance, like I have joined a small group for post grads, and there were a couple of us that went bowling last night. It was $2 bowling. It was me and Luke and Mitch and Chris, and we just went bowling and had fun. And then like we all got today for Labor Day weekend. And like we're playing board games and cornhole and Jackbox TV. I don't know if you know what that is.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but we're all adults without like needing alcohol. Like I just need a group of people that like I can totally trust and lean on and be vulnerable with. For me, that is more important than me like wanting a relationship right now. We're all there for each other during this time of trying to figure out who we are as individuals.
Yep.
Even though some of them are like in relationships and dating, like that is awesome that they are able to do that. And then there's some of us that are like, hey, like we're pretty cool, like happy, like being single. Like we just like want to hang out and like kind of just get to know each other and just like know that like, hey, I can call on this person knowing that like I'm having a really hard time, but I can trust them and be open and they're not going to judge me. And I know that they're going to point me in the right direction. Like, we're not going to be like, oh, like, let's go drown our sorrows in a bottle.
You want to go drown later? Let's do it.
Yeah, like, let's go drown our sorrows in a bottle of Jack Daniels. Like, no, like,
right.
Hey, like, how can I pray for you? Like, how can I encourage you in the next couple of days? Like, hey, like, let's go grab dinner here in the next week and, like, catch up. Just having that, like, moral support system. Like, same thing, like, with my coworkers here. Kevin is, I gotta think here. He's like 6 years older than me. Married to Hannah, and they have two lovely boys. But like Kevin, the last 3 years, he has been like my big brother.
Right.
Like, and I've been able to share like pieces of my story with him, and he doesn't like blink. He doesn't even blink an eye at me. Like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you. Like, I can't believe that you are working in Christian ministries and this is like, and these are the things that you've done. He understands that like it's who we are now and who we're trying to become to better ourselves. And I have always wanted a brother, and I'm glad that God brought Kevin into my life and his family. I went from being a special education assistant teacher at Carmel High School to working at Quaker Haven full-time this last year. I worked at Quaker Haven 2 summers prior while I was teaching, and I learned about this place through my little sister who was working here a couple summers before me. I was like, my nanny job, like my nanny girls, I got too old, and so I started working here. And Brandon, the camp director, like came up to me last July, I remember, like beginning of July, and was like, hey, would you be interested in like staying up here and helping like take upon like the housekeeping position? So I decided to take a leap of faith and quit my job at Carmel and started working here in September of 2019. Since then, as of February, I am now the assistant food director along with the housekeeping manager. And I can be more thankful for working a full-time ministry job. Being able to interact with high school kids and college students that come and work here during the summer, being able to kind of be one of their leaders and be someone that like they may be struggling with some of the same things that like I've struggled with or gone through, knowing that I can relate to them and share parts of my story and be like, hey, like I totally understand what you're going through. And these are the things that help me get to where I am today. And you may not go down the exact same path or same road. You may not hit the same obstacles, but I promise you there is light at the end of that tunnel. Anna, one of my coworkers here, she works part-time now. I kind of took over her housekeeping job, but I think she was the first person I confided with, like, hey, like, I've struggled in the past with these things. She didn't look at me any differently, even though, like, she personally hasn't gone through any of those things that I've gone through, because she has a passion for people that struggle with addiction. She understood.
Just because you haven't gone through something doesn't mean you can't be there for somebody.
Absolutely. Amen. Being able just to like be surrounded by like a group of Christians here and having our family worship nights every Friday and having a meal together and talking about what are our highs and lows and how can we pray for one another. And it just like, it means a lot because like I know this is where I'm supposed to be. this is what I needed. I needed to get out of where I was. I needed to leave
Mm-hmm.
home. But I was like a little bird that like was afraid to like leave the nest. When I like moved back home with my parents for those 2 years, like I didn't really like leaving home except for to go work and teach at Carmel because I was afraid of messing up. I was trying to go back to like being perfect Emily, which I mean nobody's perfect, but like
Mm-hmm.
if that makes sense, like perfect around quotation marks around the perfect. I was trying to go back to like who I was back in high school before like I broke like all these like commitments that I made to myself. I was being way too hard on myself and things were not realistic. And I realized that like I may have broke some of those commitments that I made to myself, like to my younger self, but knowing that I can make those commitments though again, waiting to have sex until marriage. Like I think that's something that a lot of like our generation and younger generations like really struggle with. I feel like Hollywood and TV shows like kind of like make it like, oh, sex isn't really all that sacred and like screw what the Bible says about like waiting until marriage. Like let's just go do it. Like this sounds really cheesy. But I fully understand like why God wanted us to wait. I can I can say that like I'm waiting for that like special person that
Right.
God is going to bring into my life at one point. So like that's a commitment that like I had made like long time ago, but obviously I broke it. But I was able to recommit myself. Like, hey, I'm going to wait.
Good for you for making that.
Yeah, and it's definitely like not like I mean temptation, of course, like is a struggle, like it is out there, it is real, but like
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna break that, and I'm not like I'm sorry. That's just like who I am, and I'm not gonna apologize for having that commitment, having that view. I'm able to like sit in my living room on the floor, like talking to you, like drinking my coffee, like just
Mm-hmm.
grinning like ear to ear, like loving life.
Right.
Like life is so beautiful. And I definitely wouldn't have said that 5 years ago.
So I want to end here with some final 5 questions. Number one, what the hell is going on with the Why is your four-wheeler in Alaska? Let's start there.
Okay. So I've been to Alaska 5 times.
Jeez.
My aunt and uncle, Jill and Gary, and my cousin Tristan and her husband and little girl, they all live up there. My family actually owns land. It is no electricity, no running water.
Whoa.
On an island, like you're off the grid. To build our cabin, we had to use a barge, of course, and that's how we got the four-wheeler across. And so that's like our transportation on the island is the four-wheeler.
Oh, okay.
I don't have a four-wheeler here, so
Okay.
it's
I
just
thought it was just like, oh my God, how long do you have? It's an hour and a half story about how like some scheme, somehow drugs are involved. The four-wheeler ended up in Alaska. I don't know, just some like hangover movie type thing.
yeah. No, I was so jealous. Like I went 2 years ago during the summer, and then I didn't get to go this summer. Neither did my sister because the whole COVID thing, but my parents are able to go, but I'm hoping to go next summer for a week.
What has been the best and hardest parts of COVID?
I didn't really know anybody up here, besides the people that I work with, so that's why I wanted to join a small group.
Mm-hmm.
So like it really sucked. Like I didn't get to hang out with anybody because of COVID. So like I was just like tied up at my home. But I probably the best part of COVID was probably we got to finish this duplex here at camp. It had been a 2-year-long ongoing project of just volunteer-based, of building this
Dang.
duplex of an upstairs main floor and a basement. And we're all just doing it ourselves, basically, with volunteer groups here and there. But because of COVID, pretty much like nobody came to our camp, no like youth groups or churches or family vacations. They had to cancel for like 3 months. So we got to put all that time into finishing up that duplex. So like I got to learn like how to use like caulking and how to like I painted. So I don't think I've ever painted so much in my life between ceilings and hallways and stairs, bedrooms. I learned how to like hang drywall, use a router thingy for the stairs. And I started like I learned so much. Like I might as well be in the next like Joanna Gaines or something. But yeah, that was probably the best part of COVID was getting that duplex done for that like for those well-deserving families here at camp.
Number 3, what's your favorite part about yourself?
Knowing that I love myself, that I can love myself. I can love every part of myself, the good and the bad, even though sometimes those past details play on repeat in my mind a lot. Actually, they are nonstop. But knowing that even though like I may look a little different with not having a full head of hair and not all real eyelashes, but I know that I've made a bunch of mistakes, but knowing that like I now know how to love myself in these last couple of years. I feel like I'm like a butterfly, like that was wrapped up in a cocoon, and I finally hatched.
That's beautiful. I love that. What's a piece of media that you'd recommend for people? So we're talking YouTube, Netflix, podcast, movie, TV show, something you'd recommend, either funny or informative, whatever.
Probably Spotify. I'm someone that has to have something playing in the background, some type of noise all the time, and so why not it be music? Lyrics really just speak to me on like different parts of my life. And so like I have playlists from like 5 years ago that I can go back to and be like, oh my gosh, like I was going through some stuff just because of like, the lyrics and the kind of music I was listening to. And I have like playlists from like a year ago and like know like just how drastically those have like how much like the music taste and like those lyrics and those words and like what they're saying, like how much they have changed. There's always a song that is going to kind of be your theme song, I guess.
Yeah.
Whether like, you're going through a breakup, you're going to find like a great breakup song that's going to describe the whole breakup. Whether you're feeling lonely, you're going to find a song for that. Like there is something that's always going to go along with what you're feeling. You're always going to have a theme song. And besides, everyone needs to follow Classic Buffalo on the Insta. So go and like that right now. Go and follow. We're going to talk about social media here.
You're a wonderful plug. I didn't need to do that. I want you to talk about a moment where you were happy that you were alive. With Suicide Prevention Awareness Month being this month and with tomorrow, which this will come out on Monday, but with tomorrow, last Thursday being Suicide, I can't even say it, Suicide Prevention Awareness Day, you know, is there something recently where you're like, man, I'm glad I'm still here?
So my sister and I, we don't have a lot in common. We're pretty much like polar opposites in like everything that we watch and music taste and how we dress. Last December, she graduated from Ball State.
Congratulations.
And I got to go to her graduation. Yeah, right? And it was right before COVID hit. And I got to watch her stand up and get an award because she was one of the 3 people at Ball State that got a 4.0 or better GPA.
Wow. That's amazing.
Right? Like, I was just like, whole world was just like shocked. Like shocked as in being sense like shaken. Like there was an earthquake going on, like in my heart. Like, oh my gosh. Like I was just like, holy cow, girl. Like I knew you were like freaking smart, but seriously? So being there to see her graduate and getting that extra award and getting to shake like the president's hand of Ball State. And I'm really glad that I was here to see her graduate because we had lived one semester together and I put her through hell that first semester of her college year because I was also going to IPY.
Mm-hmm.
But that's in my stage of like when I was struggling really bad with alcohol and trying to just like cope with not wanting to be here. And I know like she was so mad at me because I didn't have my stuff together like at all. And she would come home and she'd find me drunk. And I'm glad that I was able to turn myself around and I was able to like actually like support her on her big day. Like it was about Emily and all of her mess ups and all of her mistakes and like all of her like anxiety and depression and her freakouts, and it was her, about my sister.
I'm glad you're alive too. I'm glad you're still here. So, all right. So now what we're going to do, pick a person, doesn't matter who, and they have to be alive, but pick somebody, you're shouting them out.
Hey, Kim. I know that we haven't seen each other like in a while. You've been living in Florida with your husband and your little boy, and he's so cute. But I couldn't be more thankful for our friendship and being able to be a part of your special day, standing up there when you and Ethan got married, being one of your bridesmaids. I'm so excited that you guys are moving back to Indiana, and I hope that we get to catch up. And I love you so much, Kim, and I'm always thinking about you, even though we don't always text each other all the time.
Shout out.
Woohoo! Yeah.
Goodbye, guys.
Bye. Thanks for having me, Ryan.
Hey everybody, this is Ryan from the Classic Buffalo Podcast. Wanted to take a second to talk about Anchor, how I'm actually making this podcast happen. Super happy that I'm partnering with them. So Anchor is actually the easiest way to make a podcast. I've done my research. This is basically the best way. I promise. It's going to give you everything you need in one place for free, which is the best part. It's going to have tools, so you don't really need a fancy schmancy recording guy. Anchor's going to be helping you out there, and then they're going to distribute the podcast everywhere to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google, everything. And then you can also make money with basically no minimum listenership, which is kind of rare. So hop on Anchor as soon as you can. Thanks. And that's the episode. You finished season 1 of the Classic Buffalo Podcast. Woo! Celebrate. It could be so nice. Is that how the song goes? I don't know. We did it. Oh my gosh. Man, to think freaking year ago, my first episode with Gracie. Some of you guys have probably listened to every single episode. Maybe, I don't know, maybe that's too generous of thinking. But maybe there's some of you guys who listen to every single episode. I mean, I obviously had if I had to put these episodes out. But, oh man, what a freaking journey this has been. I want to talk about Emily first, and then I'll kind of go on my own reflection rant. So, first off, Emily, you are such a beautiful and kind soul, as I mentioned in the intro. I remember just very vividly going and hanging out with you and going to Dave & Buster's and hanging out with some of our friends or whatever, and sitting in the back of a truck. And you kind of broke down and told me that about the Trichotillomania stuff, and you took your weave or your kind of partial wig off, and it just was, it was shocking, but it was more so just this being in the presence of you trusting me and sharing this thing with me. I'll never forget that, of you trusting me to, just to share that with you, of that struggle of going through something. Because all of my experiences with you, Emily, have always just been so positive and fun, and we go and do photo shoots and hang out and stuff. And to know that the beautiful people out there in the world, we all have it, our demons and skeletons we're fighting. We all do. Some of us are just better at hiding than others. And, I have nothing but the utmost respect. I'm so happy for you. I'm so glad that you finally found a home where you're at. You're fighting. You're still to this day. You're such a warrior. You have so many people that are so proud of you. anytime somebody mentions, that they could not be on this earth anymore, and you only think of somebody in such a positive light, and you can't imagine somebody not being in here, and then you can't imagine somebody not being here, and to hear that some of your favorite people, and you just have no idea, but I'm so glad that you're here, that you're still here fighting, that you're happy, and you're trying to make it. I don't know. It's cool. Just guys, I'm talking to everybody now, but look at Emily's story and look at how much that Emily has gone through, has fought through, had to overcome negative thinking, and has had some valid bad things happen, or just a shitty hand in some instances. But life is so much more about how you react to it. You can go and drown your sorrows in this, or you can take a second, become mindful, and how do I react in a positive way? How do I turn this shitty situation and make it a good hand? How do I do that? Ask yourself that. Emily's proof of success. Emily is proof that you can be happy, that you can survive sexual assault, that you can overcome trichotillomania, when you can overcome OCD, anxiety, depression. And maybe it'll come back. Maybe it won't. Maybe you'll have, it's like seasons, right? It's like winter and fall and spring and summer. And, you have a really good 6 months, and then, something will happen and your car breaks down, and then you get a boyfriend or girlfriend, and then you go on that ride, and then you have a kid, and then you go through a divorce, and then you get a new job, and you move to a new city. And life is a roller coaster. You're going to have some really shitty things that happen to you, and you have some really awesome and beautiful things. And Emily's a good story of that. She's finally in a good chapter of her life. And I couldn't be more happy for her. And I'm so glad that you're alive, Emily. I can't imagine having to deal with anxiety and depression at age 7. For me, it was 4th, 5th grade dealing with depression. I didn't know that's what it was. But, especially when you're that young, like death, anxiety, depression, you have like feelings and like vibes. Like, because we're instinctual creatures as humans, but we probably don't like understand like, oh, that's that, but that's still just difficult because you're told something that you really don't even understand. You just know, oh, testing is hard, or, oh, I'm just sad all the time, or I don't want to do this, or, you just know that. You don't know you have depression. It's just kind of weird. But yeah, then Christian clicks, man, I'll tell you what, clicks are Christian and non. I mean, you clicks or clicks. You fit or you don't. But I totally vibed with that, if that's a word. I feel like I'm turning 27 this week. I feel like I'm old, but yeah, a lot of good stuff in Emily's story, and sometimes the people that we trust the most break our hearts, violate our consent, don't meet our expectations, and based on our upbringing, us peacemakers, we tend to forgive more than people deserve, and because we want peace. And in Emily's case, that kind of happened. But I think forgiving and forgetting are two different words for a reason. I think that there's a difference between you and your life. Of you don't have to forget something happened or move on completely, but at some point, I was trying to think of a cool quote to use here, but I'm not going to use it because I can't remember it. But it has to do something with, like, at one point you're kind of drinking the poison yourself. Somebody's not accepting the gift of, you're just I don't know. It's like you're holding the gift of negativity, I guess you could call it. And that at some point you got to give it up and kind of move on. But yeah, also COVID, making friends. Can we talk about that and how difficult dating and friendships are in this time? Over the last couple of months, having to try and date and trying to make friends and meet people. Good luck. If anybody has any tips or that kind of stuff, hit me up in the DMs. I think we could all use good tips and tricks for that. But we're all struggling out here. We're all fighting. We're all going through it together, as the cliche would say. We're all in this together. I don't know if any of this is making any sense or is worth your outro, but I'm still here. And season 1 is done. I can't believe... I remember when I started this podcast, it was a continuation and rebirth of Classic Buffalo, which was just my absolute love in raising awareness for mental health. And I have tons and tons of stories from Classic Buffalo in college. And for years, not only going to the hospital and going through all of that was difficult, but at the same time, like, having Vintage Indie be so successful and my mental health tanking, and I poured all of my worth and value into a business. And in 2019, I just was running out of gas, and I wasn't doing anything to fulfill this mental health thing, and just feeling like it's sort of like if you have a job for 40 hours a week and you go and volunteer at a soup kitchen once a week. It's like you don't have that in your life. It's like that outlet to give back, that passion project. You're not doing that extra thing. You might have friends and you might have your job, but like that one thing that you get to pour into other people, or like that purpose-driven thing. I wasn't really doing that anymore. And, I was making money on my side business. I had a job, had some friends and stuff like that. And then my mental health was kind of wah. I feel like, Waluigi? Wah. But, so I was kind of like that. And when I met Gracie, we had modeled a couple times, and I just kind of broke down and told her what was going on. And Gracie, we're sitting in the mall in Greenwood in the south side of Indy. And Gracie was like, you got to do it again. You got to share people's stories. And I didn't know what that meant. For me, I was sharing people's stories over text and, kind of over IG. And I just felt like I lacked the full personality and to more accurately and deeply capture somebody's story. And so doing this was kind of like this next step. And there's so many cool things. I don't know. We're only a year in, but there's been some cool things that have happened because of this podcast. Even talking about Courtney, back when we did her episode, finding out other people signed up to become donors. There were many moments throughout different people's episodes, like hearing so many different people's stories. And it got me out of my comfort zone because some of these people I didn't even know. I just was DMing random people, and some people I went to high school with or college with, and reconnecting and hearing some things for the first time. That was really cool. And then, pre-COVID, getting to sit across the sofa of another person and feeling in your heart and your chest, this is what I'm supposed to do. That's when I feel what I'm doing Classic Buffalo. When I'm interviewing people on their stories, when I'm sharing stuff, when we're talking about mental health, when we're talking about counseling and medication and shrooms and weed and trauma and relationships and self-care skills, meditation. When we're all talking about what works for everybody, I love that. And giving a space for people who have lost other people who have thought about taking their own life, giving a platform for those people to share their stories or their family or their loved ones, similar to what, off the top of the dome, what's her face, Cammie and Colleen, they've lost some people, and stories like that, or it's just cool to see someone's full story, or to this point, obviously. But I don't know, man. There's just so much purpose and warmth that I feel when I do these episodes. And anytime I had more than one person on, sharing, interviewing people and be like, hey, how have you seen this other person grow? Giving a space for that, you can tell a lot of these people they don't get to do that on a regular basis. So, and then having it on podcasts, obviously it's really cool. So those were some of my favorite episodes too, of getting more than one person on and getting okay, hey, I'm making this up, but hey, Janice, how'd you see Schmibbity Boop grow over the last 6 months? I don't know. And giving a space for them. Obviously, don't name your child Schmibbity Boop. That's probably not a good idea, but I don't support that name. But Janice and Schmibbity Boop, yeah, they got to talk about each other, and being there, for that moment was really cool. So yeah, what's next? What is next for Ryan and Classic Buffalo? Today, I got the shirts for the Vintage Indie Mental Health Tour done. So if you want to buy one of those, they're like all one-of-ones. I printed them on vintage blanks, which was kind of cool, that I thrifted across the years. And they're all different sizes, different colors, different styles, different brands and stuff. So I'm going to sell them for like $25, and that's shipped. So, and then all the money, the profit just basically just goes towards mental health bills, that we got to take care of. So, got to get that counseling once a week, baby. So, that costs money. So it's kind of just when I wanted to sell a shirt so that way, like maybe you have a confidence piece or something that reminds you like, yeah, we're still here. We're still fighting. We're on this mental health world tour this year, to raise awareness for mental health and to stand up for other people who are maybe not strong enough to stand up on their own, and in honor of those who could have left but stayed here on earth, or we're just fighting. We're still here, as it says on the front of the shirt. So if you want one of those shirts, like DM me over Instagram. As far as right now, we're taking a break from the podcast. Like, we're done for right now. Now, season 2 will happen. So what I'm planning for that is, I think the format I'm going to go with is my story. So that's why I'm taking time off, is so I can finish writing it. And then I'm going to make it into episodic format. And that might be like, if I do an episode per year, that's like, if I start at age 4, like 1 to 4 is like one episode, and then like 5, 6, 7, all that jazz. If I did that, that's like 26 weeks of content. So, or like 22, 23, I don't know, depending on how much content. So, that could be like a whole, yearly long project again. So, I'm going to be working on that and just finishing writing it, then making it into an episodic format. The main reason why I even was writing my story was so that I can work on that in counseling. I think it's very important that you know your own story. What are the good things, the bad things, the thoughts that you have, the beliefs that you have, like across the years? How have they changed? What has happened to you? What have people done to you? What do you do for others? I just think that's important. And so you can read over and be like, oh, here are some patterns. Here are like, I don't know. And then for you to actually reflect, because a lot of times like you'll go through trauma and just move on and not actually deal with what happened. So, I might also be doing that. That was the primary purpose. And then the secondary is like publishing it and kind of sharing my own experience. So that'll be season 2. And then maybe like intermittent episodes every couple, like interviewing one of you guys. And so almost like a mini-sode, if you will. And then if I do a season 3, that'll just be more of what season 1 was, I believe, at least at this point. But we're planning for a season 2. I'm just going to just start recording those. So if you'd like to be on season 2, hit me up in the DMs at Classic Buffalo, or know somebody who would be good for it. So that's kind of the plan right now. And yes, thank you so much for listening to this point. Stay in touch with me over the DMs as I continue to write my story, and just encourage me to keep going. Always good to hear from you guys and know that even if we change one life, it's worth it. So I appreciate every one of you guys that has supported me since day one. And for those who are just joining us, welcome to the squad. So until season 2, it's been your boy Ryan. See ya.